Hi. Thank you, Diane, for relaxing us. And I don't know if I'm fully woken up yet. So, anyways, the topic for today is training in action. So if we were telling our friends who are not Won Buddhists about this topic, they might ask, training for what? The answer is that we are training to have a focused mind. Why would we need to have a focused mind? Because in our daily lives, we encounter, as the Won Buddhist teachers tell us, delusions, disturbances, and wrongdoings. The delusions, disturbances, and wrongdoings can emerge internally from our own mind or externally. You might want to comment on that, whether there really is external or internal. But being focused allows us to observe these events and react appropriately to them in a way that benefits ourselves and others. So, as I was listening to Reverend Yu's recorded Dharma talk on the subject this week, I thought of a few recent events that I've experienced that were potentially trying and how I found the Dharma training to be helpful in navigating through them. Yesterday, I closed on a house sale. As many of you know, this can be a stressful event. It requires a lot of coordination of several parties over the course of months. So logistically, it's very challenging. I had finally decided to sell my house in North Carolina, which I had owned for over 20 years, and to purchase a place near Albany. I had been leasing the house to a friend over the last 4 years. She and her parents had asked me to let them know if I ever wanted to sell it so that they could be the first in line to purchase it. Back in October of 2020, I decided it was time to let go of the house and that, at least for the short term, I was going to be making my home up here in the Northeast. I worked with my realtor to come up with a price, and over a phone call with my friend's family, I told them what I thought was the fair price, and they said it sounded about right. However, after several months of haggling, they lowered their offer considerably and backed out of the deal. This was very frustrating to me because I thought that we had agreed to a price at the beginning of the process. Meanwhile, I had an offer on a new house. I had made an offer on a new house up here, and in order to keep that option alive, I would now have to put the North Carolina house on the open market immediately. This event made me even more uncomfortable because I was dealing with friends who I'd known for over 10 years. I had stayed at this family's house on an occasion or two, and so we knew each other quite well. In the end, they, particularly the father of the family, either did not trust our original appraisal or they were trying to get a much better deal. Anyway, in the end, my realtor listed the home on the open market and we got a new offer within 24 hours that was much higher than the asking price. My friend and her family were able to find a cheaper home nearby and they just closed on their house. So after that initial frustration, the final result was much better than the original. However, this could have been very damaging to our relationships if I had become very angry with them for not going along with the original deal. Yet our relationship is now still friendly, and my frustration did not rise too high because partly because I had reflected on the nature of the situation. The father of the family had worked in real estate and was very wary of other realtors. Also, he is a very frugal guy, and it was part of his nature to get the best deal possible. So by focusing on the main goal that I had, which was selling the house at a desired price, I was less disturbed by the failed deal with my friends. That was the first half of the process, the selling of the home. On the buying side, there were different kinds of frustrations. In this case, my realtor and lawyers were not very communicative and some mistakes were made. The main problems the main problem was that my lawyer thought that the closing date was 2 weeks later than we had written in the contract. So as I was loading the U-Haul truck with my belongings in North Carolina and about to drive back up to upstate New York, I still had not closed on the new house and had no place to unload the truck. I was emailing my realtor and lawyer often to ask what steps still needed to be done, and they would often say that it was up to the seller or the seller's lawyer to do something. I kept saying if I don't have the house bought by the time I drive back up, I will have to unload it into storage and then reload it when the sale was finalized. Finally, my realtor got the seller to agree to let me to unload my belongings into the house before I had bought it. So during this part of the process, I was looking for where the mistake was. Was it the lawyer who had the wrong closing date? Was it my realtor who was supposed to coordinate the whole process? Was it the seller's lawyer who was not accustomed to doing a closing over the internet? In the end, I was glad I did not get too frustrated with my realtor so that we were not able to solve the problem and get my belongings unloaded at no extra cost. So these were just a couple of the difficulties that arose during the process of buying and selling a house. And I am grateful that I had the centering techniques at my disposal so that I could navigate them without causing too much damage to myself or others. So by having a clear and open mind, we can solve problems more easily and prevent others from arising. So that is why it's important to practice our spiritual cultivation so that we can try to be more tranquil when difficult situations arise. Meanwhile, I just accepted a job offer on the same day that I closed my house purchase, which was yesterday. This is something that I will celebrate, but getting a new job also ranks as one of the more stressful things that happens in our lives. This job is the same type of job that I've been doing since the beginning of my career, medical writing. So in some ways, I'm re-entering the arena that I had thought I had left. In in one of my reflection papers, I wrote to Reverend Grace that I've been trying to evolve into a new career pathway for many years. I felt that my old path was not meaningful. I thought it was too stressful, and I thought I was not very good at it. So now, a few weeks after proclaiming that, I have accepted another position as a medical writer. So as I re enter this field after a 5 year absence, I wonder if my perspective on the job was justified. I used to feel that it was not a very meaningful position, yet I now see how dependent we are on vaccines this year, and I have a new respect for the workers in the pharmaceutical companies who were under a lot of pressure to complete the tasks needed to get preliminary approval. Also, having elderly parents, I have seen how many of the devices my colleagues have worked on have helped my parents' lives. So, even as a working cog in the machine, I would be playing an important role. Also, this new position would be a half-time contract, so it would give me time to pursue my other interests and look after my family's needs. Finally, so I reflected on this process and I realized or thought that if I don't push so hard against this type of work and approach it with a more open mind, I could expend less energy and earn a living while mostly accomplishing my other goals. So by recognizing my mind as originally clear, I would be able to go about any type of work more effortlessly. Meanwhile, remember the house I told you I was buying? Well, it needs to be remodeled. My brother in law is in the construction business and will be retiring soon. So he has offered to take on overseeing the remodeling of the house. Now, this problem is interesting. All the repairs at my parents' house have gone through him, so we rarely just hire someone on the outside to fix something. Even at my old house in North Carolina, my brother in law has rebuilt the back porch. He wired my shed for electricity, and he built a custom screen door from scratch, among many other smaller jobs. So, this is a great benefit having someone in your family who can take care of your remodeling problems, correct? Well, I didn't feel that way immediately. My ego has risen up a little, and I feel as though I should be able to handle my own house remodeling myself. Why would I need to depend on him for everything house related? This is combined with the fact that he and my sister, uh, for a time, used to never let me pay for dinner when we went out because I was a student. So I was frustrated that the rest of my family did not see me as fully capable, competent, or often absent minded and not frugal enough. So, swirling around in my mind were thoughts about the dangers of doing business with your family and friends. I struggled with these feelings for a few days, but after some time, they settled down a bit. On a walk last night with my brother in law and my sister, I asked him what he was offering to do, and he said he would serve as the general overseer and would look into the bids from the contractors coming in to do the work. So I thought, why not accept this grace rather than push against it? This is what he does as his profession, and he's proud of what he does and would like to help his sister's brother out. Why is my ego pushing so hard against the situation? I could be more grateful and let our family just work together. Meanwhile, I was dating someone a few weeks ago and she suddenly said she wanted to end the relationship. I was confused. Although we had not known each other very long, it seemed as though things were going pretty well. We had a lot in common. In fact, I started to compile a list of all the things we were planning on doing together, such as all the movies and books we both thought were great, and what types of biking trips we can go on, etc. But she cut it off so suddenly that I was convinced that she was mistaken, and I tried to reason with her that she did not really want to stop seeing me because we were getting along so well. In retrospect, I find this funny when one person tries to explain to another what is really going on in their own mind. I guess that's called denial. Anyway, even though I was surprised by the circumstances, I have to say that I was not overly disappointed. I don't know exactly why I was not that disappointed. Maybe she wasn't that perfect a match, or maybe I'm getting too good at centering myself. Uh, Strangely enough, I miss the feeling of being crushed by failed relationships. I had not been crushed in a very long time. This might also be because I'm getting older and romantic ties are not as strong as they used to be. In the end, I wish both her and myself happiness and was able to move away from the situation very quickly. In this case, I appreciate the fact that was not overly disappointed by the event, yet I am also confused and a little unnerved by my ability to detach. So, in all of these cases, I found that a centered mind is helpful in moving through a difficult situation. It reminds me of my time in the laboratory in science class, when if we were going to weigh something on a scale, we had to first adjust the scale, which is called tearing it. You had to tear it to zero. Otherwise, the revealed weight would be either too high or too low from the true weight. Also, it reminds me of using loudspeaker equipment for public address systems when you have to test the amplifier before an event so that the loudest sounds don't overwhelm the system. I find that our training practices are like making adjustments to our mind so that we have the capacity to correctly deal with thoughts and situations that might otherwise delude or overwhelm us. Thank you.
Thank you for that sharing, John. I feel like I've gotten to know you a lot better. I know you in such a short time, you were able to cover so much. Thank you for that. And it sounded like something would go wrong, but then something went right, and something had gone wrong, and then something went right. So thank you for your honesty and trusting us to be able to share your experiences, which you do so beautifully. What I was very impressed was, it almost felt like I was, it was like a picture. You're taking exact, like a picture of what came up for you, how you felt, the situation, exactly how it happened without filtering it. So I really appreciate that. I'd like to open it up to our family here. I know I saw a lot of smiles during your talk when you brought up certain things, like this nods and agreement, and just yeah. So if there's anyone who'd like to share, please unmute.
I recall some time ago, this is probably years ago, seeing some thing where they give you so many points for different stresses in your life, and they can be positive stresses or negative stresses. But as I recall, moving, buying a house, selling a house, getting a new job, quitting an old job, having a relationship break. I think that would go off the scale. Several hundred points. So I'm really impressed, John. Really impressed.
Thank you. Kind of snuck up on me all at the same time, but again, thanks to the wands, I was able to deal mostly with it.
I feel like listening to Diane's meditation and really being there with it, and then listening to John's talk just shows how we find the quiet in the alertness and the alertness in the quiet. And it's that practice back and forth, and all the reading we had to do this week about that, especially from that book, the commentary on the Dharma of Timeless Zen. It was just so beautifully interwoven. And so Diane's meditation, I thought, woven beautifully with what you did, John. And, we found the quiet, we found the calm, but then there were the disturbances, and then you wove in the practice. So it was really, they were perfect together. So thank you both.
Thank you so much, Diane, for the beautifully letting the meditation and the scare nostril practice. I haven't practiced many years, and I almost forgot. And it really helped me to focusing on my breath. So thank you so much. And thank you so much, John, for your sharing. I think you could share your story because you really trust us, and yeah, and you also trust yourself, so you could share, you could open your story. It's a little funny thing that I just shared the story with my supervisor. Oh, my internet connection is not good. Can you hear me now? Okay. My new supervisor, his name is Chuck, and his wife had many years of pain of breast cancer, and finally 4 years before she passed away, and ever since then he had any relationship. And these days she she had a girlfriend. A few days ago he told me with a big smile, and she said, a lady, one of his a customer, gave me the phone number. What do you think? And it changed his whole world. And I could see how love could change someone's life. And when we have a good sensory condition, it's not easy to recognize this is easygoing sensory conditions. So we are easy to attach to that sensory condition. And when we say, oh, this is sensory condition, is when we face really hard sensory condition, then we can easily recognize it. Oh, this is a sensory condition. This is the time to we practice our mind. So when you talked about you tried to find your centeredness, and you, even though in the painful situation, you found somewhere you are not that much attached to that sensory conditions. You really practiced, even you did not have that kinds of sensory conditions. That's how I felt. So it was really impressive to me. So thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you.
So I have a question for John. Do you feel, a sense of, I don't know if it's peace or happiness or what, a few moments you said, I'm not sure if this is because I'm dealing with the sensory conditions well, or if I'm, you had a few moments of questioning what was happening. But currently, now that things have settled just a little bit, my question is, and reflecting upon that, what are you feeling now? Like, is there any difference? Or
You're talking about the relationship issue?
no, I mean, just all of it. Like, it sounded like it was kind of a stressful last, I don't know, months.
Mhm.
And are you still feeling stress? And despite reflecting upon your, I don't know, I don't know if I'm making sense.
You mean about like the immediate feelings versus over time?
Yes, like,
Well, I think I never really was overly maxed out during the process. It always felt like there was an escape valve. So even though I made it sound like it was very stressful, I wasn't really at my maximum. I was above baseline, but I wasn't at my max because I always felt, well, if that doesn't fall through, then something else will happen, and maybe I have some good karma built up. I don't know. Um, but it's lucky that I'm maybe deluded in a good way, but because there were a couple cases where if I reacted more negatively, I would have made the situation worse. So I'm glad that maybe I didn't know any better.
yeah, okay, thanks.
Mm.
So John, sorry, you just said what was in my mind from the beginning. I was thinking, oh boy, you have really good karma, because those are potentially really, really stressful situations. But every time an obstacle came around, it was solved so easily, So it was like, okay, I can see how you kind of navigated through the whole thing. But what I was thinking is, the more we deal with our own minds in a positive way, and the more we act in that way, the more that the universe starts to collaborate and make things easy for us. And it seems to me that this is a perfect case of that, because at no point did you like blow up or get upset at people, even your friends who had backed out on their deal. You just, just tried something else, and the universe collaborated, and it's a beautiful example of living in that way. And thank you. And I think maybe what Brenda was going for was that you were commenting on not being sure about how you feel about the fact that you navigated it so well that you're wondering if there's something wrong with you, something like that you said, right? So that was curious. It was, I think it's probably, what I thought about was maybe it is new for you to be able to do this so well, but it's to congratulate yourself. I mean, I think it's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And Diane, I want to thank you for that meditation. That was so beautiful. It was really, really relaxing and really allowed us to go deep. I think the breathing really kind of brought us down into a nice meditative state. Thank you. So thank you both.
Okay, thank you all. And now I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Yu.
Thank you so much, Diane, especially the breath work. I realized I had the 2 nostrils. And thank you for John for your sharing the living scripture. We have 2 classes to go to left. So tonight, the essential dharmas of a daily practice, and the next Thursday, the last class, we will cover timeless meditation, placeless meditation. So if somebody asks you, what is the one Buddhist meditation? You better not say dungeon breathing now. So it's timeless meditation and the placeless meditation. That's the name of 2 guest houses at the One Dharma Center. Essential dharmas of a daily practice. It's a huge topic. 3-fold practice, 4 articles, and 4 essentials. So I cannot cover the whole thing. So let me merge these 2 topics together tonight and the next Thursday, especially focusing on essential dharmas of daily practice number 1. The mind is originally free from disturbance, but disturbances arise in response to sensory condition, in response to trying situations. Let us restore, let us give rise to the tranquility, to the samadhi of our original mind by letting go of those disturbances. It specifically tells how to practice meditation 24/7. This is the first item. Timeless meditation is very closely related with the first item of essential dharmas of daily practice. So let's just focus on that. When I was 2nd grade in elementary school, I was very close with my mother, and who told me this story. It's one very well-known Japanese children's story. There was one lady who had 2 sons. Her first son made a living by selling straw shoe. The second son make money by selling umbrella. When the weather is sunny and great, she's worried about the son. who make a living by selling umbrella. He cannot sell any umbrella. So she's worried about her second son. When it rains, she became concerned with of her first son. When it rains, her first son cannot sell straw shoe. So people need to wear straw shoe whenever the weather is great. So she always worried and cried. One day, her friend visited her house and realized her situation, how her friend's mind is going on. So she gave her a piece of advice. Well, when it's sunny, think about your first son who sells a straw shoe. He will make a lot of money. And when it's raining, think about your second son who can make a lot of money by selling umbrellas. I was a second grade, but I thought it makes sense. So after she took the advice of her friend, she became a happy lady. So I thought that even though I was a leader, I thought, wow, that's a great lesson. My mother is a great storyteller. But when I grew up, I realized my mother is very devoted Won Buddhist, good practitioner. Her mind didn't go just like her story or the lesson. Just like a regular house, good things and the bad things always happen. But she's always focused on, her mind automatically focused on something on herself, and she's worried about that. Even though there are a lot of good things happening in our house. When I grew up a little more, when I was in regular college, I discovered my mind acted exactly the same way, just like my mother. As I said, I want to become very calm and peaceful before examination. Then I can take the examination far better. But can you control? Okay, I decide my mind to stay centered before bar exam or whatever things, before road test. So your mind works in that way. From tomorrow, I'd like to let go of all my comparing mind, jealousy, desires. So your mind goes in that way. Just like the word of Jesus, your mind is willing, but your body is weak. So from that time, I thought about the word 마음의 자유, freedom of mind. In the Buddhist scripture, you encounter this kind of expression a lot. Freedom of mind, freedom of mind. From that moment, I thought about it's just a word, but it became very meaningful and a very important word to me. Freedom of mind is very, very important for us to live a very happy, contented life. Because good thing and the bad thing always happens in our life. And the good and bad thing is also a very subjective thing. Somebody always focus on the negative thing. Ask celebrities in the USA or in Korea. Their fans leave lots of online comment. 99 people says something very good. Your performance was great. But one person made a negative comment. The celebrities, whether it's a movie star or singer, they always think of that one negative comment. It's the same to all people. So what is freedom of mind? It's almost a synonym. It's an identical word like nirvana. Having freedom of mind is nirvana. The first paragraph, when you read the timeless meditation, placeless meditation, it goes in this way. The first paragraph, meditation is a practice for attaining freedom of mind by awakening to one's original nature. Since time immemorial, those who have been determined to achieve the great way have all practiced meditation. Meditation is a practice for attaining freedom of mind by awakening to one's original nature. So particularly after I was ordained, I meditated a lot, especially when I was a novice. At least I meditate like 5 or 6 hours in order to awakening to my original nature. I was highly motivated to get the freedom of the mind. When I spend a lot of time on the meditation cushion, it made a very big difference. First of all, a lot of discriminative, dualistic thoughts, attachments, comparing mind, it started to disappear. I became very comfortable in whatever situation. I had a couple of serious bad habits. I didn't intend to practice mindfulness to break the bad habits. But when I spent a lot of time for sitting meditation, that habit disappeared. Many things that attracted my mind didn't appeal to me anymore because my mind started to become centered and purified. But it's just half of the story. Sitting meditation worked beautifully, but it was not cure-all. It's not wonder drug. Still, I had a lot of some kind of unwholesome tendency of my mind, short temper, for example, etc. So our practices should be something a little more. So something is missing in my practice personally. Very naturally, my interest was transformed to how can I maintain meditative, peaceful state of mind on the cushion as well as off the cushion when I involved in daily activities, especially when I encounter some difficult situation. How can I maintain my original mind? That became my interest. This is all practitioners' interest and the direction of our practice. It's needless to say. Last week, I saw one Thich Nan's YouTube video, the interview with Oprah. Oprah is new to meditation and Buddhism. So Oprah asked, do you meditate every single day? Thich Nahan said, not only every day, but every moment. While drinking, while talking, while riding, while talking with you at this very moment. It's not for the sake of an interview. I think he really lives in that way. So that's the direction of our meditation or practitioners' meditation. In order to practice in that way, in order to embody timeless meditation and the practice meditation, we have to understand exactly what meditation is. Understanding the exact definition as well as its principle is important. Let me read. You can see the timeless meditation chapter later. If people intend to practice genuine meditation, they first should take a true voidness as the substance and marvelous existence as the function, and externally be unmoving like a mountain when in contact with millions of sensory conditions, and internally keep the mind unsullied like empty space. Let the mind function so that it is not acting even in action and not resting even at the rest. It's a little technical thing. So it's the same thing. The first item of essential dharmas of daily practice, the mind is originally free from disturbance. Originally free from disturbance. Last week, it was so windy at the one Dharma center. 10 days ago, it snowed, even though it is April. But the sky remained always the same. The wind, however strong the wind, however thick the clouds are, it cannot change the pure space itself. That pure space is who we really are. Technically, it is called the true emptiness. Do you know why you can hear my talk very comfortably? Since your mind is empty. If you have a lot of worries, you cannot concentrate your mind on my talk. The nature of our mind, your mind, all people's mind are empty, true emptiness. But because of this space, you can put the mouse inside this room, microphone inside this room, paper, this body inside the room. Why? This space is empty, true emptiness. But when you look at the mirror, you can see all kind of images, just like that from your mind, all kind of sounds, colors, shapes, thoughts, emotions arise. So that kind of something has a reason is called the marvelous existence. What is the difference? Our true nature or original mind is a true emptiness and the marvelous existence. It's too difficult to say that. So let's just call that empty awareness, who we really are, empty awareness when we go very deep in meditation. There is nothing in our mind, but we can hear, we can think. Empty awareness. So the saint and the sage's mind is like a mirror. But average person's mind is just like a camera film. Once it catches the image, then it will never let it go. It's very different from the mirror. As soon as you take something away from the mirror very naturally let go of that image. But think about your past trauma, bad memory. That happened 10 years ago, 30 years ago, but sometimes it still lingers in our mind. It becomes implanted on our soul. That's why average person's mind is not like a mirror, but like a camera film. One of the greatest Japanese Zen master is Hakuin, Pagan Sensa. He was very much respected Zen master, probably 300 years ago. And because of his popularity, his monastery was very rich. A lot of people started to donate, give something. One day, one member's daughter got pregnant. She was not married. It's a really serious thing in old days in Asia, when the Confucian ideology was dominant. She could be beaten to death by her father. So her father became angry and asked to her 19-year-old daughter, who is your would-be husband? Who is that baby's father? She was so scared, and she said, Zen master Hakuin is the baby's father, to avoid that situation. So that member became very much appointed to that abbot's behavior. And the father, after she gave birth to a boy, he visited that monastery and gave that boy to that older abbot, Zen master Hakuin. Here are your boy. And the Hakuin said, "So desu ka?" Do you know what so desu ka means in the Japanese? Is that so? Is that so? He didn't say anything. So desu ka? Is that so? So rumors started to circulate that the monastery lost all those members. The monastery all of a sudden became very poor. So that all the Zen master wandered around asking for food for the monastery and for the baby. After 1 year, the 19-year-old girl who gave birth to a boy became very scared. Wow. She drove the prominent master into a very miserable situation. So she thought to herself, it's a very, very serious karma. She can be punished by the heavens. So she very honestly told to her father, the real father of the baby is Tom. Let's say Tom. And the father was embarrassed. Wow, he was so mean to the Zen master. And he said all the temple members, then Zen master is a hypocrite. And he immediately rushed to the monastery and said to the Zen master, he's really sorry. And I finally knew the reality. Do you know what Hakuin said? Hakuin said the same thing. So desu ka is that so. And the master gave the baby to his member. So the monastery became very rich again, started to come, far more people come. So think about many average people's mind as opposed to Hakuin's mind. Camera film and the mirror. How's your mind? How's your mind? When we meditate, our mind becomes just like empty space or mirror. Sitting meditation is important, but as I said, that's just half of the story. Particularly when we encounter some challenging situation, we have to learn, we have to know the technique, how to maintain the meditative state of mind in the midst of a difficulty. Our founding master said, if you know the method, even the farmer who is holding a hoe can meditate. An office girl who is working in front of the computer can practice meditation. A carpenter who can using his tool can practice meditation. If only you realize the method. So our founding master said the three methods. The first one, I would like to talk next Thursday, the second and the third one. For example, when you encounter some challenging situation, your boss, your spouse drive you crazy, says ask or say very irrational thing. At the moment, how can I use our mind? How can I stay centered? Taejongdae is a very well-known tourist place in Busan. It's a cliff by the sea. Just like a Golden Gate, the view is amazing. It commands a beautiful sea view. But there's one problem. In that, at the edge of the cliff, a lot of people threw themselves to kill themselves. At the sunset, a lot of people threw themselves from the Golden Gate to commit suicide. It's a big headache to the city, to the township. There are so many people. So one architect suggested, let's make a beautiful statue, very compassionate mother holding its baby. Think about your mother or family. It didn't work. One Christian group suggested several well-known Bible passages. So the deadly karmic consequence of suicide must some other well-known passage or some passage from the Buddhist scripture. It didn't work at all. But one very young man suggested that this, it's not one sentence, just one word. That one word reduced the suicide rate to half. Do you know what that word is? One Korean word. 잠깐만. 잠깐만 means stop or wait for a moment. Before you decide your mind, before you do some action, wait for a moment. Just one word. 잠깐만 reduce the suicide rate half. When you encounter some challenging situation in your house, at work, that's our life, our normal life. We are born with the difficulties we pass. We live in difficult situation and we die in that state. So what we are supposed to, 잠깐만, wait for a moment before you vent your anger, before you say some harsh things. Just as Reverend Kang said, whenever one meets a trying situation, do not forget to keep the thought in mind. An opportunity for practice has arrived. An opportunity for practice has arrived. So, as I said several weeks ago, if your boss asks some very unreasonable thing, so you think to yourself, he drives me crazy. How could you change your mind? Instead of saying, you drive me crazy, you drive me to practice. Say after me, you drive me to practice. One more time. You drive me to practice. It could be your husband. It could be your wife. It could be your children. Sitting meditation will change your life. But in a very difficult situation, if you can very successfully bring your mind to a pause, if your level of practice is this level, it jumps to the next level. Whenever some challenging situation is arrived, keep the thought in mind, an opportunity to practice has arrived. It is not Reverend Park, Isabel. Have you seen Reverend Park's check? Reverend Park's check.
No.
How about the check? It says, it is not a problem, but an opportunity. It is not a problem, but an opportunity. Skilled salesmen utilize the strong wind to speed up their goal. So read the timeless meditation, place the meditation chapter, and the next two steps I will talk next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Yu. So in your small discussion groups, share, what drives you to practice these days? What practices are you using, especially when you come up against sensory conditions? And as John did so beautifully today, share your experiences with each other. This is a great time to do that. So I will open up the rooms. Welcome back, everyone. Hello, hello. Okay. Okay, so welcome back, and I would, Reverend, you and I would love to hear some of the sharings that went on in your group discussions. So I would like to start. Is there anyone in Allison's group? I think it's Allison, Christine, Ida, or Che. Any sharings from that group?
You want to have your last hurrah, Christine?
I think you should tell your story, Allison. That story is amazing.
All right, well, I'll tell my story. That some of you know the story that I had my beautiful double oven that blew up at the February 1st. And so it took a long time. And my meditation even helped with that. I had to make millions of phone calls between Home Depot and GE and Asurion. I had taken out the long-term insurance on it. And I never got mad with anybody, although I had to repeat the same story 50 times every time I talked to a different customer service person. But the light at the end of the tunnel finally came, and they refunded me the full amount of what I had spent on the stove, because it was I'd only had it for 31 months operational, so I hadn't had it for that long. So it's like, yay, that's really good. And a little proud of myself that I hadn't yelled at anybody or screamed at anybody. And so the next thing is, okay, what new kind of stove do I want? So I spent multiple hours. I went to stores and looked at stoves, finally chose the one that I wanted. It's not available till August. So I have to go through the summer trying to cook meals every day for my son. He's doing some barbecuing outside, but you know, you get a little bit tired of things that in the rice cooker and in the slow cooker and a fry pan. So I thought, okay, I'm going to buy a little tabletop oven. And again, I did my research and I looked up all of the reviews, and I ordered one that I thought sounded wonderful from Amazon, and it arrived the day before yesterday. It's this wondrous machine and it looks beautiful. And I have these peppers and I'm going to make stuffed peppers for dinner. So I carefully put everything together, and I put the peppers in first to soften them a little bit. Then I put the filling in, and I even have a neighbor, and I said, hey, Pat, would you like a pepper for dinner tonight? And she said, oh, I'd love that. So I said, I'll tell you when I'm ready. I sent her the text. I said, I'm just about to take them out of the oven. Come on over and I'll give you yours. I opened the oven. The glass door broke into a million pieces. There were little shards of glass in the food, on the counter, on the floor, all over the place. And she's at my back door, and I said, like, the oven just exploded. So I said, I'll make it up to you another time. So, but I didn't get mad. I was a little shocked, but I didn't get mad and I didn't get upset. And I immediately got on to Amazon, and they said, oh, that's all right. We're sorry that happened. We'll refund you the full amount. So the things in my life this week have been curving along, and I have been practicing and trying to stay centered and not get terribly upset and not get too attached. And I'm feeling pretty good about things. So, and I even had a man who collects metal things. I saw him on the next door thing yesterday morning, and he came to my house last night and he collected the oven and took it away because Amazon said they didn't want it back again. So now I'm back to researching to find, well, I'll have to find another one now, won't I? But that's just my little story of that. And that's not all what we talked about. And I'm sure Christine will fill you in on some more, because we had a wonderful conversation with the ladies today.
Oh my gosh, Allison, please open your YouTube channel. Then I'm gonna subscribe you.
Yeah, that was a great story. And we all had little stories about things that have happened that, and we talked a lot about the circular nature of things. And then Allison told us about Reverend Bop, who has an Ilwan circle in one of his rooms where he does his acupuncture, but the Ilwan circle has the yin yang in the middle of it. So it's like the black and the white and the little dots in each one, and it's the Ilwan circle. So it's all like the flow of life and how things change, things happen, things turn around. So it was a very good sharing about that, and about the fact that sometimes we need to pause and stop and think and use our practice, use the practice that we have, that we do during quiet times, and then use them in the times when things happen. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has anything else, but it was great.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, and how about Diane's group? I think Diane, John, or Shino. Is there anyone you'd like to share?
Are you going to make me talk? All right. Well, we talked about our disturbances, and where, as with many people, there's some concern about the COVID and the vaccines. That's on our minds, and one of the other topics we talked a lot about are the issue that's going on. Well, it's related to the issue that's going on with kind of the white supremacy stuff, and related to the reaction against the Asians in the U.S., and also related to that being the how you're going to adapt to that, maybe through an organization's diversity and inclusion team. So those are the challenges, and how to deal with those disturbances. So it was a very good discussion. If anybody wants to chip in, feel free.
Okay, thank you, John. All right. And then last but not least, Brenda's group, Brenda, Isabel, Patty, or Bob.
Go ahead, Patty.
I think mostly what we talked about was that people drive us to practice. And I think that each of us have gone through an experience that where we could have become frustrated and angry, and at some point maybe even have gotten to a point of I need to walk away. Bob had to walk away from a situation because it was a bit overwhelming, and understandably so, but it was better to walk away and take a breath and center himself than that's something that I've noticed in myself too. Instead of just becoming angry, my first instinct used to be to become angry with somebody for something that they did and just blast them for it. But now it's taking that breath and having patience and seeing that person instead of just what's in my mind, And Isabel and Brenda, Brenda was starting to share her mom. So see, it's people. Recognizing, and I think this happens to a lot of us who have children or who are getting older. We recognize that we're becoming like our parents, or doing things or saying things that our parents did, and then we notice about ourselves as we become more aware, right, of who we are, we recognize that maybe there's more to us than we thought there was. I think that's Isabel, that people, it's at first being upset that something that's happening, and then recognizing that I've done that as well. And so then we have to stop being angry, because I'm getting angry about something that's also happened to me and I've done. And then the just recognizing ourselves in our behaviors and our attitudes, and seeing where my arising mind or behavior action is different than it is not what it should be. So we step back and do something different. I think that's what it was all about.
Thank you, Patty. Very good memory. She remembered all your stories. Thank you. Okay, and to close, Reverend Yu.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Reverend Kang, do you know what's her name? Hwang Sang-in? Anyway, there was one young woman who went to Wednesday night, the Seoul Meditation Center. On Wednesday night, we had a meditation class at the Seoul Meditation Center, which is my first workplace. Reverend Hwang, she became a Won Buddhist minister later. She went to College of Pharmacy. After graduation, she started to work in some drugstore in Seoul. She was very busy, and the work environment was so stressful. She always waited for Wednesday night to come to the Seoul Meditation Center and to calm down her mind, nurture her spirit. But not bad. And also, she always looking for her summer vacation in order to go to the Mandaksan Retreat Center to join 10-day retreat. That's her cycle. But when she studied and mastered the Dharma of timeless Zen and meditation, timeless meditation, placeless meditation, her life, her practice become different. She realized when we are stressed out, instead of thinking going to the retreat, instead of going home to meditate or watching YouTube to refresh yourself, we need to practice at the moment. That's the genuine meditation. Our founding message said it's a living meditation. So as I said, we have to know how, the method. 잠깐만, stop for a moment. Bring our mind to a pause. Keeping the thought in mind, an opportunity for practice has arrived. Even though you fail, it's important. It strengthens your mind. In the process of trying, your mind muscle become empowered. As I'm not sure I told this before, in the zero gravity zone, in the outer space station, scientists experiment a lot of things. They grow corns, they release some animals. When they started to experiment, bees in order to know the bees' behavior. When they released the bees, all the bees appeared to be puzzled because in that non-gravity zone, they do not have to move their wings. It's just so comfortable. They just hover around. To the bees, it's a paradise. But after several days, all bees became dead. Why? They became so weak. Our third Dharma master said, for the trees, winter, harsh condition is very much important. Truly, it's the winter time. All the trees shed their leaves and conserve their energy in their root. And in the spring and in the summer, they grow. So we have to be grateful for all those difficult situations. Whether you like it or not, it will come. The English translation said, an opportunity for practice has arrived. But the Korean word 돌아오다 literally means come back again and again. 돌아오다 means come back repeatedly. For example, Ellison or Isabel or whatever person, you have a daughter-in-law, let's imagine. You don't get along with your daughter-in-law. Okay, I checked my mind. I brought my mind to pose. Wow, it worked. But it worked a little bit. But the next week when you see that person again, there's no guarantee it will work again. The challenging situation come again repeatedly. So that's life and that's a practice. Practice of 훈련 literally means doing something repeatedly until we get used to that. So one just a little tip. How can we skillfully bring our mind to a pose of taking deep breath or chanting? We already talked that a lot. But you do not have to find all the betters if you can avoid the better. Sometimes my mother says something very, very unnecessary to hurt my father's mind. So they started to quarrel. Do you know what my father, so my father is very used to, sometimes he can expect what would happen when he go home. Do you know what he did when my mother started to nag? He leaves the home and walk around 30 minutes, 1 hour. I don't call that walking meditation. He get the fresh air, 30 minutes, 1 hour. And then when he come back, my mother becomes calmed down. My father becomes calmed down. If you can change the environment, you do not have to involve yourself to do all those better. For example, if you are attracted to some, let's say you're alcoholic, but just imagine, then instead of fighting the temptation to drink whiskey in your house, get rid of all the whiskeys in your house. Change your environment. That's very, if it is possible. I'm very angry or whatever things. Then chanting, sitting meditation, many times it will not work. Just accept that fact. It's the nature of the mind. In my case, I started to involve myself in some physical work. Working our mind, sometimes it does not work. Why don't we work with our body? Clean your house when you're angry. When you are very angry, I don't think you can clean your house. Yeah? You can straighten up your room. You can straighten your garage. When things are straight and clean, your minds got refreshed. At least during that time, you can forget, you can be away from those negative thoughts or emotions. So anyway, there are dozens of techniques. So let's talk a little more next Thursday.
Thank
So
you.
please join the retreat at the end of the April. I and Grace will teach a continuing education class from the first week in May. How much are interested to take the class? Okay, let Grace know if you'd like to take class, and yeah, she can.
Yeah, and I will emphasize
Uh,
we have scholarships
yeah.
available. So I'd just like to emphasize that again. Okay, I'll send out that information. Everyone have a very good night. Thank you so much for today. Bye-bye.